working with young people, and I've worked with young people now for 20 years, something like that, and still I find it pretty amazing that they don't quite get what I say when it comes to how soon you should start your revision. And I have to go back to when I was a teenager, and I have to confess, yes, I'm pretty sure, if my memory serves me correctly, anybody that looked more than 20 years old to me was categorized as old, and they didn't know what they were talking about. So I probably pretty much largely ignored what they said as well. So maybe I shouldn't be too surprised why sometimes what I say gets ignored by teenagers, but I'm going to have another go. So this is my little rant about revision. Do not cram. Please, please, please do not cram. Don't rely on your short-term memory. Short-term memory is really, really bad when it comes to trying to revise for your exams. So please don't cram. Don't leave it to the last few days, because all you'll do is try and stuff all of this knowledge into this really small part of your brain. Small as in it's not got a great capacity, and it won't work. Why long-term memory works so well and that you can retain stuff for years and years and years is because it relies on rehearsal. The more you rehearse something, the more permanent the connections in your brain become. And we are talking about connection synapses, your brain rewiring itself so that it can make these permanent memories, these permanent connections that when you need that information, you can recall it. But it only works if you put some effort into it, and that effort has to be over a significant amount of time. And that's why you must always start to prepare for any examination you have weeks and weeks in advance, months in advance. Here is the ways that I think you should do it. Not only should you write your information down by hand, but you should say it out loud to yourself, and you should read it in several different forms, maybe from different sources, different books or different online resources. And here's why. If you write the information down, then you're using not only your eyes to process the information, but you're making a physical connection through the muscle movements of your hand, which will help your brain process this information. And the extra thing is, of course, is that you've got to write by hand in exams anyway. So if you're not in the practice of writing because you're using lots of electronic devices, PCs, keyboards, things like this, then that's really good practice. So it's a double whammy, a double win situation. It will help your memory, and it will get used to you writing. Saying it out loud to yourself is just another way of your brain processing the information through your ears. You read it, you hear your own voice saying it, and once again, it's multiple processing, and the more ways the brain processes the information, the much better it will go into long-term memory, and those permanent neural connections will be made. So speak it, read it from different sources, write it as often as you can, condense it down from big notes into bullet points, learn those bullet points or those little phrases that trigger things off from your long-term memory, so that when you're sat in your exam, you only need to remember certain phrases and keywords to bring all of that information back from your long-term memory. The other thing I want to talk about is just to remind you that we need to rethink how we deal with stress when it comes to exams. For far too many years, we've talked about stress being negative and being bad for you. And yet there's some brilliant research out that shows that if we change our attitude towards stress, then it can become your friend. It can have a profound physiological effect that if you think positively about stress, it can actually give you the sort of physiology that we see in people that are having a pleasant, joyful experience instead of a unpleasant, stressful experience. So Actually say to yourself actively, stress is my friend. Remind yourself that stress brings you extra oxygen to your brain because your heart might be pumping that a little bit harder because you're feeling a little bit stressed. And that is brilliant because it brings oxygen to your brain. It will wake up these frontal lobes. You'll be able to think really intelligently and pull all that information back from your long-term memory. So, in summary, don't cram. You're only utilizing short-term memory. It's rubbish for long-term knowledge and for intelligence. Use your long-term memory by preparing well in advance. Rehearse the information. In other words, read it, write it, say it out loud as many times as possible. Condense things down into note forms so that you end up learning phrases and keywords that will trigger your long-term memory. And finally, treat stress as your friend. It galvanizes you into action, and it gets oxygen pumping around your body and into your brain, which is exactly where you need it. Follow this advice and you'll do really well in your exams. Good luck.